Hi, this is Chanel. Hope you're doing well. The name of this video is Starting Over. Okay, and so this is, it's actually the second video. It's now 2026. This is technically the second video I have recorded. It's January 4th, 2026. This is the second video that I have recorded this year. However, yesterday, January 3rd, I decided to delete all of my videos, all of my previous videos. My first video was posted in 2022, and my last or most recent video was posted in, well, this year, 2026, at the beginning of the year, probably I don't know whether it was the first or second, but it was recently posted. And so yesterday, like I said, January 3rd, I decided to go ahead and delete everything that I have posted, and because I want to start new. Okay, I wanted to delete everything from the past. I'm cleaning up, or that's part of my cleanup, spring cleaning, I guess we'll say. But I just wanted to erase everything from the past and create something new. Okay, and so something more positive. Now, just to kind of go over or give you more information about my reasoning behind deleting my previous videos, is because, number one, my intent for creating videos is to give information, to give my thoughts on certain subject matters, to help make people aware of certain things. However, I just wanted to create a fresh start. Okay, and my goal for other videos that I make in the future will be to it'll be informational. However, hopefully, not hopefully, but the videos that I'll be making from this point forward will be more inspirational. Okay, so the title of my channel is CNI Inspirations. Okay, and I just would like to be more inspirational. Okay, and so I am going to go ahead and go over some of the things that, because I did delete all of the videos, I do want to still have information out there. So what I'm going to do in this video is talk about some of the things that I feel are very important and still need to be discussed, and we need to be made aware of within society. Okay, so like I said, my first video was recorded in 2025. Gang stalking, I believe, was one of my, I don't know, I know I talked about so stalking or harassment. Okay, that is something that definitely needs to be spoken about more. Okay, there are different forms of harassment, and it is very problematic. Okay, and so I wanted to make people aware of ways in which people, or those in society, harass others. I know for me, I have experienced it via technology. Okay, and so it's a thing, and it's problematic, and I wanted to make people aware. Okay, and so harassment is definitely something that needs to be that we need to change within society. Okay, differences. I remember talking about differences in the very beginning. We're all different. We're not. God did not create us to all be the same. We all have different experiences in life. We all grew up in different families. We come from different areas of the world, be it, different areas of your city, or different areas of your state, or just different areas of the world as a whole. So we're not gonna be the same, okay? I know, and I'm gonna try to make this very short, or as short as I can. But just as an example, for me, I've grown up I've lived in the city. I've also lived in a very small town. I've lived where the majority of people were black. I've lived where the majority of people are white. I've gone to different types of churches, or denominations, I guess you should say. I've lived in the city, and I've said that, like I said, I've also lived in a small town. However, I have family members, very close family members, who lived on a farm, and so I have had the privilege of experiencing and seeing life from many angles. Okay, and I think that if people were to experience life from multiple angles, maybe people wouldn't be so close-minded. Okay, however, differences is something that people acknowledge more often than I mean, a lot. Okay, people are always acknowledging differences. However, everyone is different. Okay, if a set of twins, I remember saying that in the video, if you get a set of twins, or you get put 10 sets of twins together, they're not gonna be alike in every way. Okay, and so differences are normal. All right. Another thing that I talked about, let's see, in many videos, I'll say this. So I published 2 books last year. How to keep air in your balloon is one. It's a children's book, and it talks about the importance of self-love, respect, avoiding peer pressure, and goal setting skills. Okay, and so in quite a few of my videos, I did talk about this book and the importance of teaching children those my screen has gone dark for some reason, but teaching those things to your children. Okay, self-love, respect, like I said, avoiding peer pressure. What else? Anyway, like I said, this is available on Amazon. Okay, and it's for children. Great book. Okay, second book that I wrote was ABCs of Manipulation. Okay, and it talks about ways to identify either a manipulator or manipulative group. Okay, and I'm going to say this. To me, one reason it's so important to be able to recognize a manipulator or a manipulative group is because manipulators put you in danger. Okay, and so it is important to know when you are potentially in danger. All right, and I think of it this way. For me, 2 things that I cannot stand is a liar and a manipulator. And I feel like I see it this way: when a person lies, it's like putting an umbrella over their head. Okay, a lie protects the liar. Okay, let's say there's you, and then there's you here. Okay, and let's say I'm the liar. Okay, whatever lies I tell, I'm putting this umbrella over myself, and I'm leaving you to get wet. Okay, and now telling the truth covers both. Okay, whether it's a truth that no matter how a person feels about the truth, the truth protects. Okay, may not feel good. Okay, however, the truth protects. And so again, telling the truth is like covering both people or covering everybody. All right, however, when a person is telling a lie, they are covering their own heads and leaving you to deal with whatever the repercussions are, or to deal with the rain, so to speak. Okay. Manipulative behavior. Back to the book. Okay, so manipulative behavior would be like It would be like saying, so I just gave gave an example about, what it's like to be with a liar. Okay, it's like saying, okay, I'm gonna cover my own head and you get rained on. All right. With the manipulator, it would be like a person saying, I've got this umbrella over my head, but let me convince you, let me try to, convince you that it's okay to be in the rain. It's okay to be wet. Or let me trick you into being in inclement weather. Okay. So that's just the way I look at it. Okay. And so again, it's just very important to be able to recognize behaviors of a manipulative person. All right. And in this book I gave, I believe, 30 something examples, short descriptors for manipulative behavior. Okay. It's very short. It's a very short book. So I talked about, like I said, manipulative behavior quite a bit. The importance of paying attention. Paying attention is very important. Pay attention to people's patterns. Pay attention to pivots, changes. Pay attention to people's words. Pay attention to people's actions. Pay attention to the hidden hand. I know I discussed that in one of my videos, and I think I was talking about lying. Okay, and so lying is like having a hidden hand. Okay, if somebody is lying, or it's like they have their hand behind their back. What are they hiding? What's in their hand? Okay, so pay attention to the hidden hand or lies. Pay attention to people who try to overshare. I've talked about that in one of the videos. Okay, oversharing. Some people, it's when we give information, logically we would give information that's needed to be given. However, I've found that people who overshare do it for certain reasons. Okay, and just because and I'll also say this: people who do that often overshare with one party and don't and do the opposite with another party. Okay, so why is a person oversharing? Okay, so those are just some of the things that we should pay attention to. I also discussed some of the unpleasant experiences, which is another reason I deleted all of the videos. I talked about some of the things that I experienced. Okay, and some of the unpleasant experiences that I have had to deal with is identity theft. I've someone getting my personal information and using it, and I still haven't gotten all of the information from the agency that contacted me. But anyway, identity theft, destruction of property. I've had someone or people, I don't know exactly who, but destruct or tear up my backyard my fence. So anyway, destruction of property. And I'm not gonna sit here and try to think of everything, but there are things that I've and I will bring this up. Career pivots for me. I worked for a company for almost 20 years. Well, I'll say 2. But anyway, worked somewhere for almost 20 years, and then pivoted to entrepreneurship. Okay, and so and I'm not gonna go into that either. But anyway, that's just been part of my journey. Okay, that I discussed. I talked about going back to paying attention to people around you. It is important to pay attention to people around you. One thing that I've had to do, and I've talked about some of the things that I have experienced. Sometimes people's actions will, or I'll say this. And I'm gonna get in my book. One thing that I talk about in the book, ABCs of Manipulation. Some people do what's right, or I say this in the book. Some people always do right, some people always do wrong, and others do what they can get away with. Okay, and when it comes to paying attention to people around you, it is important to know which of those you're dealing with. Are you dealing with someone who strives to do right? Nobody's perfect, okay? But are you dealing with someone who strives to do right? Are you dealing with someone who is always trying to find, figure out how they can get over on everybody, okay? They're always doing wrong, okay? Or are you dealing with someone who is, or people who do what they can get away with? And with that, with those who do what they can get away with, some do what they can get away with no matter who it is they're dealing with, okay, and others do what they can get away with just depending on who it is. So they may not, if it's close family, close friends, they may not do anything to mess them over, so to speak, okay. However, if it's someone they don't know or someone they don't care for, then they will do what they can get away with, okay. And so pay attention to those types of behaviors. Tools. I've also talked about tools. All right. So a tool is everything is a tool. Okay. Knowledge is a tool. Your personality is a tool. A skill is a tool. Obviously, what you have, what you're able to obtain is a tool. Okay. And so pay attention to people's tools. Pay attention to how people use their tools. Okay, some people use their tools in a positive way, and others use them in a negative way. And in one of the videos where I talked about tools, I discussed how a hammer is a tool. Let's just say this is a hammer. Okay, so some people use a hammer to build. Okay, they may use this to build a home or build whatever. Other people may, that same hammer, that same tool can be used to destroy. So some people are destructive, okay? Be it, like I said, everything is a tool. And so pay attention to how people use their tools. Are they destructive or are they constructive, okay? Labels, okay? Labels is another thing that I spoke about quite a bit. It is important to know who you are first. Know who you are, all right? There are, in society, we have all of these labels that, are checked off for us before we're even able to recognize our own name, okay? We've got all of these boxes to check, okay? With your, race and sex or gender or political, standpoint or, religious background. There's so many different boxes to check. And then there are also other labels where we, label one another due to, let's say psychological labels or medical, there are just so many labels that we have in society. Some of them are true, some are not, some are, okay. And so at the end of the day, it's important to know who you are, okay. As far as parents go, it's important as parents that we advocate for our children and teach our children who they are. Let's see. And I have notes behind me. Tug of war. I talked about tug of war or power struggles, okay? In society that we have a lot of power struggles, okay? And some of them are unnecessary as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I'm concerned. I feel like as a whole, if we were to just respect one another, and just do right by one another, there wouldn't be such a struggle. Okay, and that's just a little bit of what I think on that. But you know, there are so many different power struggles that we deal with in society. And like I said, you know, we've got good and evil. We've got, you know, male versus female. We've got, you know, different, you know, political views. We've got socioeconomic differences. Okay, and so, you know, everything is you know, there's so many different unnecessary power struggles. So I remember discussing that. Give me 1 second. I also talked about, I'm at 20 minutes now. I also talked about timelines. Going back to respect. You know, we are all here. You know, if you're looking at this video right now, and obviously, you know, everyone walking the earth at this moment are sharing this current timeline. Okay, we're on a timeline together. Okay, you know, life is a journey, and while on this journey, I think that you know, there are a lot of people who make other people's. I'm gonna say it this way. I have a little piece of paper. Let's say this here, if you can see it. Let's say these two lines represent now. Okay, if you're between here, you know, between here and here, this is now. These represent people. Okay, so these don't all start at the same time. Okay, they don't all end at the same time. That will represent a lifeline. Okay, we're, you know, all of us, like I said, walking the earth right now, are sharing a timeline. Okay, and there are people, unfortunately, some people who try to make other people's journey. And again, and I'll say it this way, you know, we all have a start date and an end date. Okay, we're born on a certain day, and then we will no longer be here on a certain day. Okay, and so that would be your own timeline. Okay. There are people who try to make other people's journey difficult unnecessarily. Okay. And again, we're all sharing this timeline together. Everything, all of the resources we have, you know, the water, the food, the land, everything that God gave us while we are on this current journey. Okay. And while we are sharing this timeline, we all need the same things. The basic needs are all the same. Now, we don't all want the same thing, and we're okay. But at the end of the day, as far as basic needs, we all need the same thing. Okay. However, there are people who aim to make other people's timelines more difficult than they have to be. That's something I don't understand, and it's very ignorant. Okay. And so, you know, don't go through life trying to make other people's life journey difficult. Okay, we all have to do this together. Okay, so don't go screwing up somebody else's timeline. Okay, a journey. Okay. Another thing I talked about, thinking about that, is political views. And so, you know, I talked about how, you know, we all have these different political views, and excuse me, to me, that's another unnecessary division. Okay, an unnecessary power struggle. Okay, in one video I talked about how, and I think I had paint, red and blue make purple. Okay, and I talked about how you know, I mentioned you know, what did I say? Republicans and Democrats are like political Crips and Bloods. Okay, and so, you know, there's this division. All right, And so why don't we, merge together? Again, we are all on this timeline together. So red and blue make purple. Why don't we, mend and do what we need to do as a unified world, instead of being so divisive? Okay, we don't have to be so divisive. It's unnecessary, silly. Okay, and so I made several videos. I think close to 70 videos between 22 and 25. And so obviously I didn't go over everything that I discussed. However, those are some of the more memorable videos that I remember, or topics that I remember discussing. Okay, and the only reason I talked about those things just now is because I think that, again, I think those things are important. I think that being unified is important. Being respectful is important. Paying attention is important. Okay. Just everything that I discussed is important. Okay. And I think that overall, we just need to be more respectful of one another. Okay. It's not that hard to be respectful. I mean, people make it difficult. People make it difficult, and I'm not perfect. And one thing about me, and I had I have had discussions with people close to me, and one thing about me is I'm very blunt. I don't, and I prefer honesty in return. I don't like for people to BS me, and I'm not going to BS anybody else. And so I think that if everyone is just honest with one another and respectful, I think this world could just be much better. I'm gonna say another thing. I remember two other. I'm gonna, because these are two memorable topics that I discussed. One was not your cup of tea. Again, talking about respect. Okay, and I remember in this video I said, imagine going to a party. Let's say you go to a party, or you go to a social event, okay? And there are, let's say there are 5 bowls of punch. Okay, let's say there's punch or tea. Okay, let's say there's 5 different bowls of punch. They're all different flavors, or all they all have something different in them. Okay, they're not all the same, but there's 5 different bowls of punch, okay, for the guests to enjoy. All right, and let's say you see one, and maybe one has oranges in it. Okay, maybe you don't like oranges, or you're allergic to oranges, so you don't want that. Okay, would you go up, walk up to the bowl and spit in it because you don't like it? Okay, or would you just go on and find a bowl of punch that you would enjoy? Okay, now what you should do is obviously just go find a bowl of punch that you enjoy and drink that. There's no need to spit in something that you don't like. And I feel like a lot of people, spitting in a bowl of punch that you don't like is equivalent to mistreating people that maybe you don't know. And a lot of times, people mistreat people that they don't even know. Okay, never even had a 2-second conversation with them. Okay, however, that treatment, that is how a lot of people treat one another. It's like spitting in something that you don't like. Okay, when in actuality, if you don't like something or someone, just move on. Okay, there's no need to ruin because someone else might like the punch with oranges. Okay, that may be someone else's favorite, and you've gone and destroyed it. Okay, and so there's no need to destroy what you don't like. If you don't like something, just move on to what you do like. Don't destroy it. Okay, and not only that, but like I said, 9 times out of 10, people try to destroy what they don't even, what they can't even describe, or what they don't even know. You don't even know what it is. Okay, and when it comes to people, there are people who dislike other people who they don't excuse me, They don't know. Okay, like I said, they've never had a conversation with them. Maybe somebody else, maybe they heard from someone else that, they shouldn't like them for one reason or another, or they heard one thing or another about someone else from a third party or a group or whatever the case may be, and they don't even know them. Okay, and so that is high level ignorance. Okay, so again, if you don't like someone, don't, if back to the bowl, if you don't like a bowl of punch, don't spit in it. Somebody else may love it. Don't destroy what somebody else may love. Okay, there's somebody for everybody. All right, next is, I talked about sponge people and solid people. Okay, now, and what I did was I took glasses of different things. Okay, I think maybe I had like a glass of water and a glass of coffee and maybe a glass of grape juice. Okay, and let's take a sponge and a stone. Okay, so if you were to dip the sponge in all of these different drinks, it's gonna soak up everything that are in these drinks. Okay, and so let's say you were to dip that sponge in all three drinks, it may come out brown, but then you can smell the grape juice. Okay, and so, but then if you take a stone and you dip the stone in those drinks, you're not going to, it's not going to come out smelling like anything else. You can squeeze it, it's not going to come out smelling like anything else. So, long story short, there are some people who shapeshift, so to speak, depending on what environment they're in. And there are other people who are very solid. Okay, pay attention to who's solid and who isn't. Okay, and that's all I'm going to say about that. All right, just pay attention. So again, so like I said, those were just some of the more memorable videos that that I made, or that I wanted to go over in this video, because like I said, this year I plan to do something completely different. Prayerfully, a lot of things that I experienced over those 3 years, I will not have to experience those again. Like I said, dealing with harassment and identity theft, pivots in my career, and changes with that, relationship roller coasters. I dealt with death. My father passed in 2022, and then my last two grandparents passed in 23. And so anyway, between 22 and 25, a lot has happened. A lot. Okay. And so I wanted to just delete everything and create a clean slate. However, I wanted to put information back out there that I thought was important. Okay, and things that I do want to share. I did want to share with you all. That's helpful. Okay, so like I said, I look forward to doing different videos, more inspirational videos, and I just look forward to doing something a little different that hopefully you all will enjoy more. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, this is the first for 2026, or first that I'm keeping for 2026. Again, I hope it was helpful for you all, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching. Feel free to write any comments and like. Again, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.